with another episode of Wrap Up. It's your man Fez, Vandaag Ngvangiwan, you know. Shining Armor couldn't make it today, but guess what? We're gonna have a lot of fun. Yeah, today I've got a living legend, Bafwet. If you're talking about rap, yeah, like us, if you're talking about, you know, people that have pioneered, talking about a living legend, you know, I don't even want to say his name in any other fashion, but the biggest fashion you can actually get. Landmarque. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Landmarque.
I'm putting my hands together for myself.
You know, it's not every day, and I love my job. It's not every day that I sit with legends and we get to discuss where it started, where it is, how it even got to what it is today. You know, to me, I grew up back in the early 2000s listening to hip hop, and you were one of those guys that always used to pop up in the conversation. For those who are now Ama 2000, can you introduce them and tell them who Landmarque is?
Well, Landmarque is MC hailing from Tembisa, 1632.
Yeah.
I'm a third of Last Day's fam, which is how, you know, a lot of people know Landmarque.
Legendary.
Yeah. Supergroup Last Day's fam. And yeah, man, I'm just a dude who loves hip hop, who loves storytelling, love beats, love rhymes,
Yeah. So as much as you do say you love hip hop, I want to know, when was that moment you realized, and like, there's this thing called hip hop.
Yeah.
I'm getting into it.
You know, I was thinking about it on the way here. You know, there's on Saturdays radio. We back then it was called Radio Metro.
Yeah.
Right. They used to play Aboskilo.
Sure.
I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller.
Class.
And they even played Abo Shaq. Remember Shaq used to rap at some point.
Sure.
So there was a time Shaq's track used to go, "My biological father didn't bother." You know, so there was that whole track where he was talking about how his biological father didn't bother to raise him, you know.
Sure.
And of course I love Shaq because I'm an avid basketball. You know how it goes.
He's my favorite baller, man.
Well, there you go. So I was like, oh yeah, Shaq is rapping. Yo, there's this thing, right? And he's actually talking about some serious stuff, you know.
Yeah.
The pain of his biological father not being there. Sure. And that's how I was introduced to hip hop. I was like, hey man, this is like a mode of communication. So of course then, you know, I think Doggy Style came out around 93, 94.
Sure.
And then, then there was the Gin and Juice, all the big tracks that were on radio and high circulation. Yeah. So I caught on to that. Next thing you know, a neighborhood friend of mine introduced me to cassette tapes.
Sure,
right? His name was Wanda. And he was like, yo, dude, there's this. There's Spice One. So he had a catalog of stuff in a nice little suitcase. TDK tapes, you know? And he introduced me to the love of wanting to know who produced the tracks. So he was like the guy from a science of, no, this is produced by what, this is produced by what. And that's when I started loving the production side of hip hop. So it's as early as that.
And I'm looking at the digital era, because right now it's easy to find who produced what and who did what. How difficult was it back in those days just to pop a tape and listening to the style and going, this could be this person, this could be that person? Because I know right now, playing this song, we already, man, that's Pharrell. I mean, that's Timberland. Yeah. That's, you know, that's No ID. But how difficult was it back in the days?
I guess you needed to have the credits. The album credits was essential, you know. So if it was a tape or if it was a CD, one of the first things you do as you listen. And another dope thing about back then was we didn't have phones, right? So there was no distractions. It was just you and the music. So on the couch or wherever, you were just listening and you were paging through the album cover, you know?
And there used to be lyrics.
And they used to live, so we used to live for that. We used to geek for that. So it was difficult because without the sleeve, you wouldn't know who it was. Sometimes you would rely on magazines, about the source, you know, to see maybe if there's like a review of that particular album that you had. Oh, this one got 5 mics, this one got 4 mics. So those were the baselines of us judging how dope albums were back then.
So looking at the impact, even with your sources, your publications, right? What was the time where you were looking at everything around and going, look, this one got 5 mics, this one, actually I can also get 5 mics on this.
Yeah, you know where it started? In the hood, it used to be called Nico. Funny enough, this place resembles a lot about, you know, where I started rapping. It was a nightclub. So Saturday nights, it was a nightclub,
No.
Znico nightclub. But during the day, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoons, it was open. So lovers of the cultures, DJs, went and spoke to the club owner, like say, you know, this thing is vacant during the day, you know, there's this hip hop thing, allow us to use the spot during the day. And dude was, you know, he loved the culture too. So a bunch of DJs started making some shows there, on Saturdays. And a friend of mine invited me to come through, classmate actually, who we used to trade also, you know, tapes in school. And he was like, Cho, there's a place there, open mic, you can rap. Can you rap? Like, maybe I can. And then next thing you know, I'm on the stage kicking some raps that I had made up during the week.
Wow.
And the crowd was like, yo.
That's
I was like, I can do this.
Wow.
I got a reaction first time. I can do this.
It's actually amazing to see how little hip hop sessions that were made grew us in the hip hop. So which ones did you now building up as much as you got on stage and you showed in your own neighborhood? Which ones did you start liking and going, I wonder if I go to this session, this is home, this is where I really shine and I kill it.
Look, there was a lot of subsequent movements after that, right?
Yeah.
So after there's Nash, Ozniko, there was Kozeni, which was another nightclub, which was also converted, you know. And typical of Amakasi, there was disagreements by hosts. You know, that crew didn't like that crew. So it's in a Siangara, we open our own movement. These ones are, you know. Yeah. You know, but then we went and rocked all of them. Like I was part of another group before LDF called Tribe of Judah. There was like maybe 30 or 50 cats, you know. But it was a huge Tembisa movement. We used to come to IFM and rock Rapidtivity Jam as Tribe of Judah.
Big show.
So there was this whole movement, Velikasi, and different shows. Like there is no show Ikasi that I haven't rapped at, you know. Okay. I cut my teeth in all those shows.
Then you're on stage rocking it and everybody giving you the recognition. But you know what? As a lyricist, man, my only question is, how do you get to Last Days Fam and gospel? Like it hits me going, what was there a transition from you rapping? Because I understand we all used to want to be, you know, almost, I don't want to say American, but we all capture it from there. We need a flow, we need to do this, the way we express ourselves. But I want to understand, in terms of you now moving from the whole hip-hop mind and going into, actually I can rap, but do gospel. Okay. How did that
happen? Yeah. So you can imagine this scene that I've just cast, right? So there's a lot of movements in the hood, and then I'm part of this larger collective called Tribe of Judah, which is just you know, cats and from all walks of life. And then, you know, so my lyricism was birthed there, right? Sure. So later, right, when I got to 18, you know, I meet Last Days Fam, so to speak, right? It was back then it was called Last Days Clan, before it was called Last Days Fam. And Last Days Clan, you know, I heard them, right? So I also went through a spiritual awakening, right? So a new birth experience, you know, what they call born again, or the process of being born again. So it was a separate sort of journey for myself. And then I came across Last Days Clan. So now I have this background, I have this hip-hop background. One day in one of the meetings, the youth meetings, I hear Last Days Clan. I'm like, okay, these dudes are, they're still kicking it, you know, they're from the hood, but there's a slight twist to it, you know? Sure. So I was like, okay, so you can still do what you love, you know, and mold it around who you are becoming. Yeah. Right, so it doesn't, who you are and your skills.
Did that not clash? Like looking at hip hop and looking at a more religious side of it. Yeah. Did you not find yourself battling between keeping it clean and keeping it?
There was a strong battle. There was a really strong battle, and there was also a strong battle within, I'll call it the religious sect. Yes. You know, because this is foreign. You know, this is demonic, you know, this is...
Because I personally would say, if you're in hip-hop, you weren't thinking about rapping about gospel.
Of course not.
It wasn't heard of. Especially in Nalaim's house.
Not even back then.
This is hip-hop. you could do bubblegum and get away with it, but if you were going to do gospel, everybody's gonna go. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Nah, but it was dope, right? Because then what happens is that, you know, when you are amongst people who kind of understand with okay, fine, this is kind of the choices that I've made. The thing is, you know, our skills are the things that, you know, that's why it had to get to a place where I also had to make peace with the fact that a skill and an art form is just that. There's rules within the art form, right? Yeah. There's rhyme schemes, there's beats, there's, you know, styles, there's structures, right? But who you are just an embodiment, and this becomes a vehicle of expression. You know, Kasi Rap, you were talking outside about, you know, we had a format, it's hip hop, but then it doesn't speak our language, so let's use our language to still follow the rules, but just use our language. So what you're doing is you're modifying the art form, taking the rules of the art form, and just expressing yourself through what you know. You know, color schemes are known things in arts, but when you take color schemes and impose and infuse some African element to it, it's still art. But you can tell, man, it's got an identity, and the identity is African. Yeah? Sure. So I think an art form conforms to who you are. And then you just express yourself through the art form regardless of what you are.
I think that speaks to originality, and we get a lot of young guys that obviously we mingle with in our sister company, which is Head Nod, which is something we're trying to maybe preach to them about originality and how you come up with your style. That's where maybe I need you to touch on and just show the rest of the guys who are watching how they can create their own style instead of sounding like a Jay-Z, a Nas, a you know, a Drake. How do they then listen to that and come back and say, my pen game, let me change it and sound originally me? How would you advise them?
I think it would help to be true to who you are, right? You know, it would help to not alienate. Like Abantu, when people hear you speak and when people hear you on a track, they shouldn't see two different people, you know. So you kind of convey who you are, and I know that, you know, sometimes we want to angle our persona in the public along acceptable norms, but my advice is there's a story about you that's unique. There's a story about your journey that's unique. There's experiences that are common in society, but there's experiences that are unique to you. Sometimes, you know, one of the things that I love hip-hop about, or the reason why I love hip-hop, is relatability, you know? When you hear something and you're like, damn, you know, I understand what dude is saying, you know? I actually went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 myself, you know? So you love it because it relates to something in you that you hear in the other person. So originality is just that, like conveying your story in your unique way using the tools that are available. But it doesn't mean sounding like anyone else. You shouldn't use the rules, but the rules are just guidelines. You know, you can weave and
be artistic,
bob.
You know? So now talking about stories, your story now, your Last Days clan at the moment. How does the story continue, and how do you guys get to be, I would say, on top of the world? Because, you know, for a guy like me watching TV, I'll just turn on the TV, I'm like, hey, Last Day, you know, because I'm an avid hip-hop fan myself, and I get happy even watching you on gospel shows, where I'm going, and that, you know, I didn't know you guys that well until I saw in a gospel. I'm like, actually, there's a story to this clan. So where does it go from just meeting to going to a point of like we're going for it now?
So after the clan, so I then, as I said, it was formed. It was an existing entity, and then I arrived. You know, with my background, I'm like, yo, Bafetu, I like what you guys are doing, right? And I gel, you know, and I believe my belief systems and yours, you know. But you know, I've got this history. You know, can we work together? You know, can I be part of you actually? You know, so I wanted to be part of them. You know. And then I brought together with myself people from Ikaslam, right? Who were also
you didn't come alone.
No, I didn't come alone. Like, you know, there was Cleasy, there was a bunch of people from my hood, Brain Train even, who were located exactly within my block, who also kind of, loved this evolution that they saw. So we then was like, guys, man, let's just call the movement, let's just call it family, let's remove clan, let's call it fam, let's all go, and then we were all going together, like 8 of us, sometimes 10, 15 of us, and we just with this same story, right?
It's the
same experience.
The same thing I wanted to know is how many of you were in the fam, because when they say last week, I had to see 3, 4, but
at some point it was 8.
Bringing everybody.
At some point it was 8 officially. On the official Streets EP cover, there's 8 people in there. Different age groups, but it all was just birthed around, hey dudes, this thing, 9 days you're fine, you're finding yourself, you're finding God, you're finding, your feet in the world, informing your identity. Come along, Joe. Enjoy the journey. Share. Let's go. And then over time, of course, we wanted to be formal. Then we were like, okay, guys, it's difficult now with 10 or 15 people to do this thing. What do we do? So we dropped the first project, and then it's evident who is common on those tracks. You can just see, Landmarque and Bonafide are on most of the tracks. Okay, fine. They are the ones who kind of were leading, and then eventually I think when we dropped the second project, the double disc, there was then 4 of us. Like now we made it official. It's okay, Last Days Fam is 4 people. And then we dropped that around 2012, the double disc, and then after that we pushed for Skat.
So my thing is dropping the first project. What did you guys come across in terms of challenges, and I want to play around the expectations and what you guys really got. So just that feeling of finally we've got something and we've got something. Different. The world is. That was so.
That's what was actually dope about it, because it was so different. It was uncomfortable for a lot of cats. I remember this one time at Back to the City, 2009. We were there, and then we were about to perform.
That was my first Back to the City.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was difficult because cats were uncomfortable with it. Because as you say, hey, we don't understand this thing. How can you use this art form and not be like all of us? I remember this one time we rocked that crowd, and the stage was on fire, right? And the next group was about to go on, and they started hollering at the host, Joe, how can you put us on after these gospel cats? Like now, what are we supposed to do now? Because the crowd is like crazy. But so a lot of people didn't understand that it was difficult. And then there was like all the movements in Soweto, Slachis, Dungeon Shack. We used to come here frequently. And then there was a competition, what was it called? Music Made Day. Music Made Day was having, we went to the Pelican Club. Look, we went to a lot of places where this competition was being held. So it was held here, and we came from Ekasi, and we were competing with all the heads from Isoet. And I think that's when we really established ourselves. And this was pre the first project, by the way. It was pre-dropping the first project in 2008. So we were here 2006, 2007. We were frequenting.
And some of the guys that you came across and would say, look, when you look at them and say, nah, these guys are putting in some work. What are some of the names that you
It's all the, for me, I remember the movements quite a lot. Because it was, my career was established on the movements. Our career was established on Splash Jam. Our career was established
Which one was your favorite as you going on?
Splash Jam. Splash Jam was dope. Splash Jam was dope. Because it was just the love, the culture, I think I loved the movement.
Splash Jam was a bit different from your Slachis, from your, it had its own thing. And I know as a lyricist, it's that one place where you're going, even the reception is going to be amazing, because there were a lot of sessions back in those days, and trust me, it was put every single week would have somewhere to go, and every single Sunday would be there doing something. But Splash Jam it's almost like purely for the lyricist.
For the lyricist, no? Because 1808 was there, we used to go there, it was much later. So as you say, the vibe was slightly different. But it was a little bit more entertainment, a little bit more fun. Splash Jam, as you say, was like bars,
Bars, lyrics.
Cats listening,
I know. That was the one. So now you go around, drop the first one, and you get things moving now. when do you guys now sit back and go, time to get our second one, time to really make a mark, and not even a mark in the hip hop world. Now we're going into the gospel side of things, and I remember back in those days I wasn't an avid gospel fan, but I was like, I would listen to somebody rapping about gospel because I love hip hop, and it's really about the content.
What made us unique is actually the fact that we didn't really define ourselves as gospel.
Yeah.
We didn't go out. That's why the gospel community never really accepted us.
Sure.
The first Crown Awards, we won them, right? We won them, but it was like, we don't really understand this thing. So which is why we never really were about labels. Tina, we knew we were heads. We knew we just loved this thing. It just so happened that all of us were, Christians. These labels are sometimes useless. Is when they realized that album that we dropped, the double disc, the one that was nominated for the best hip hop album in 2012, which is the same year, funny enough, that we won the Gospel Award, the Crown Gospel Award. I think that's when it clicked with man. These things can be coherently together without needing any approval from the church. You understand? Because without needing to conform to. Later, a lot of people came along following our blueprint, but they did something that appealed to the church, that they can sing on Sundays. But we didn't do that because we felt, what's the point in any case? Blind, too much light in one place is blinding. It
is.
Go take the light outside.
Let's go. And then you guys as Lost Age Fam, you started with your solo projects.
Yeah.
What inspired you to go, look, I know we're a family, I know we love each other, but this is my time to go, I need to find myself within this hip hop thing?
It was actually Bonafide who started, he actually dropped the solo first. And it was just, one of those things where your life leads you to a place where you have some time available and a lot of personal experiences that eventually allow you to, because we are lyricists, right?
Sure.
This is our output. This is the way in which we express ourselves, right? So Bonafide then decided to drop something because of what he was going through and the amount of content he was able to write in a very short space of time. That's the power of inspiration. Like, you can start today, there's nothing, there's no track. Next week, you've written 7 tracks.
Sure.
Because of how much inspiration came. And I think that's what happened to Bonafide. He put his project out, and we were fully in support of it. As a group, we always knew that at some point there will come a time for a solo. But we just didn't know how, when, what the mechanics would be.
Branch out, But
it just happened. On Bonafide, it was perfect timing. He was ready, the people were ready, the project came out. I didn't have anything. I was like, why?
Good luck.
Good luck.
Do your thing. I'm behind you.
And then for me, it was lockdown. Like lockdown, I was like, can't go anywhere. So you have a lot of time.
Sure.
And then I had been receiving beats from Amachita over a long time. Who said, hey Joe, whenever you decide to do a solo project, please use this beat, So then I started hitting those guys up, hey, say, let's do something, But then I was like, actually nobody knows Landmarque now. Okay, they know Last Days Fam, but actually they don't.
But I look at it as I'm rolling back and going, Last Days Fam has always been there, and Last Days Fam has been the brand. But the Landmarque, it has always been a name that's in conversations.
Okay.
It's always been,
Oh yeah. You see, I didn't know. I didn't know that. I mean,
it was in conversations. Like,
okay.
There's Landmarque,
okay.
And you'd find, okay, maybe we don't know who Landmarque is,
okay,
as in how he looks, but there's conversations about, Landmarque is a dope lyricist. That's how I got to know. There's Landmarque. Yes, there was Lost Days Fam, which you would see in media, but then there was there's Landmarque, and he's one of the guys.
Okay.
You see, now it started coming together. Now, something that you spoke about is you hit lockdown, and there's something amazing that you did with one of my favorite DJs in the country, Obi.
Okay.
I caught myself, speaking to him about lyricism.
Oh, okay.
And we were debating the new school hip hop versus old school, and we're getting into. But how do we get back the lyricism? Because I love that. Yeah. You can give me your beats that make me go crazy in a club, but I sit down at home and I listen to me. That's how I consume music, and we debated that. Well, how do we get that back? When did you guys sit down also and go like, it's like, you know what? Screw having a conversation. Let us do this. Let's bring that lyricism back. You know?
Yeah, that was a nice turning point, especially around this time. It happened this year, right? Yeah, it happened this year. The Obi track with Golden Shovel. It was just a perfect coincidence, actually. You know, we were due to go to a cypher with DJ Melfactor. You know, downtown, and then we went there, but then there was so much of a delay. You know, we were waiting there, things were not starting on time. Then Obi was like, man, hey Joe, this is what I've been wanting to do, you know. I got this boy of mine who's got this sick beats, you know. I bet you if you hear it, you're gonna dig it, you know. So he was like, yeah, man, and I've also been wanting to drop like a lyricism-based project, you know, and you and Golden Shovel were the duo or the two people who people have always wanted to hear on a track. And I'm like, Obi, it's funny you should say that, because Vele, we were overdue. Because Golden Shovel and I, there's been 3 or 4 tracks that we were supposed to have done. We actually did. Actually, I think there is a track that is supposed to come out on Battle Cat's album. With myself and Golden Shovel, which we also did. So there's about 2 or 3 tracks. So I was like, Echo, a lot of people have been wanting this, but no one has been able to release a track just yet. I got a question for you, Obi. If we do this, will you drop this track now? You know, give me a promise that you're gonna drop this track, because people have been wanting this collaboration for a long time. So he was like, actually, I'm gonna do it. Trust me. So we went in and we recorded it quite quickly. And then that was it. And it's out there and people seem to like it.
It's actually a big song. On my side, I didn't believe when I heard the song drop. Wow, you guys did such an amazing thing. In a market where it's all about, you know, the glitz and the glamour, you know, and somebody came in and just had something to say, you know. Let's leave hitting the charts, because it did chart also, but let's put that aside. Something to say, which leads me into lyricism. What do you think is most important when the young guys watching out there are getting into hip hop and writing and really feel like they need to say something, they need to be lyricists? What is most important when it comes to a lyricist, somebody who's going to get on the mic and say something?
That's a difficult question. That's a very difficult question. But the simplest way to answer that question is just remember poetry. Like, you know, like I don't care what
there's rhythm in poetry.
There's rhythm in poetry. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter now anymore about complicated. You know, it's not about. It's not as technical as we think it ought to be. You know, there are people who are great technicians, but are not great poets. You know what I mean? Like, you know, they've got the structure, they've got the thing about poetry is heart. So lyricism and heart for me are inseparable.
I've always debated that fact. That, look, I always reference your BIGs who are technically elite, and then I go to a Park who's just like poetic, and everybody wants to debate that. I'm going, if you fuse the two, actually you got the perfect MC.
Exactly.
You know. So
it's funny you should mention Biggie, because
that's where I'm at. And how do you know, Tuguti, not to compare the two, how do you know who's the better MC, who's where to go? Because the young guys right now, I would speak from Kasi Rap, I've heard so many of them, and they go the Biggie route of the techniques, kicking punchlines and being able to be funny and, you know, have a little, you know, jab there and there, which I look at it and say anyone can do that. It's just playing with your language. But how do you capture my heart and speak?
It's the story, though. It's the story. So now I think we're getting somewhere with this. So we've got the poetry side, we've got the heart side, and then there's the story. And let's refer to Biggie. For example, on the track where he goes, "Who the hell is this? Waking me at 5:46 in the morning, crack of dawning. Now I'm yawning. Wipe the cold from my eye. See who's this paging me?" And why? It's a story. It's got the rhythm, it's got the cadence, But he's telling a story. Someone is paging him at 5:46 saying, what the hell? 40, man. So I think it's the story, it's the poetry, it's the rhythm, it's the heart. So I think that's what I would call lyricism is, you know? That's that if you can fuse those things, I'm very to you, you'll be dangerous.
True. And this one goes to all of you guys out there that are watching. As you've heard, a living legend has told you how to put your lyricism together. Because it's not satanic rap, no shake rap or whatever, but it's all about, the story, your heart, and what you put into it. Now, before we vanish from these guys' screens, I need you to tell me right now, what is Landmarque busy with? What is Landmarque doing? And where do people catch you? And how do we really subscribe to you?
Yeah, good question. Hey, I just dropped 3 projects, man. I just dropped 3 projects as a result of embarking on a solo career. The first one is Pride and Wrath. The second one, the first one is Envy and Avarice. The second one, Pride and Wrath. The third is Gluttony, Sloth and Lust. So those projects are out right now on the streaming platforms, all of them. So people can hook into Landmarque by subscribing mostly to my YouTube channel. The reason I say that is where a lot of these videos are getting dropped. There's also some of these interviews going up there. There's also, it's interesting what's happening here, but I'm working on a live, version of what's going on. A live version of the actual releases. And then there's also some merch, man. But I brought this for the crew, But we printed some merch initially.
Where do people get it?
Yeah, the website is called landmarque.co.za. With the Q.
How do you spell Landmarque? Because
LANM.
Because I'm looking at it, it's like Landmarque. I'm going MARK.
Yeah, there was a Q before. Yes. But then there's a UE. So it's Landmarque with a UE. Yeah.
So if you spell it that way, you should should find it and be able to dig into that. So what I want to do is I'm also going to be dropping a new merch line, because I realize hip hop and fashion go hand in hand. And there is been a lot of interest and inquiries about how hip hop is becoming $1 million.
Exactly, man. And people have been asking those questions, just like you were asking, dude, we want to support you. We want to make sure that you still are able to create this wonderful music. What can we do? This is one of the ways you can support me. You know what I mean? Get the merchandise. The music is just, in the end, I think we're going to get to a place and a time where music is just a commodity, Joe.
Sure.
You understand what I mean? Sure. There was a time where music was sold, people made money from music. But I think the future is telling us that there's got to be something beyond the music.
I always tell people, Diddy once said, it's no longer about sales, it's about influence. So how many people you influence becomes your economics. Because all those people will be able to support whatever you're doing.
Done.
So with that being said, in terms of Spotify,
Spotify, all the whatever Deezer, whatever streaming platform you're keen on, and even these days YouTube also drops the audio version of the project. So it's easy to find, very easy to find. To
you guys out there, this was another great episode of the Wrap Up. It's like, I've got the best job in the world. I sit with legends and I pick their brains. Even outside of the cameras, I still sit with them and really get to understand what it is and how hip-hop can influence all of us. I've got the love for hip-hop. He's got the love for hip-hop. It's always going to be hip-hop. And any one of you guys, if you want to get on the show, do like, subscribe, hit the bell so you can get notifications so that we can all be a family. On that, please go get Landmarque's music, get the merch, get everything, support South African music, support hip hop. We still have something to say, we still got stories to tell, we still got a lot, and then whenever he comes onto any platform, support the brands that we have out here, right? And then we will see each other on the next episode. This was a great one. This was an informative one, speaking lyricism, not just hip-hop, boom, bap, That's what I like. So to all of you guys, we are wrapped up.